Well, good afternoon, everybody. So nice to see everyone. And I apologize for the echo. We will fix our audio shortly because it's my fault. This is the LTD Board of Directors regular board meeting for June 15th. We are doing a in-person due to rising COVID cases. Officially call this meeting to order at 4:30. And I'm going to do a roll call, and then I'm actually going to turn it over to Mark so I can find a different audio situation. So really quick, let's just do Gino.
Here.
Thanks, Gino. Pete.
Here.
Thanks, Pete. Susan.
Here.
Thanks, Susan. Dawn.
Here.
Thank you, Dawn. Michelle.
Here.
Thanks, Michelle. Emily.
Here.
Okay. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you while I go get my AirPods. I will be right back.
Okay, sounds good. So I don't think Kaylin has anything to announce, but just for the general manager, a reminder that June 24th is our rodeo day for bus operators and staff. And so out on our bus lot, we'll spend all, not June 24th, I'm sorry, 26th, the Sunday. And I've got another event on the 24th, so like mixing them up. But anyway, yeah, 26th to the Sunday, we'll have our annual rodeo, and it's always a fun event, and board members are welcome to attend. So just let me know if you are interested, and we'll make sure you can get in. And then also Emily Secor's last official meeting as a board member. And I just want to really thank Emily for her time on the board. You know, it's sometimes can be very demanding. And so I really appreciate the time you put in and the effort. So thank you for that. Unfortunately, we can't have a party for you in person, which we were hoping to have, but you know, we'll buy you a drink later, right? So we just, wish the best to you and your new endeavors and new addition to your family and all the stuff you have going on. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
And let's see, with that, that's all I have at the moment.
Is there any other board members that want to say a special note to Emily at this time?
Well,
I would like to say something.
congratulations.
Oh, go ahead, Susan.
There's the echo.
Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I was just going to say, Emily, congratulations and best wishes. And I guess maybe we can give you a drink right now. So we'll wait. Good luck with everything.
So, Mark, what time is the rodeo day? What is the timing on that?
Yeah, it goes from around like 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon.
Okay, thank
And
you.
then we follow with the barbecue. So
Thank you. And Emily, it's been a pleasure working with you. I wish you the best of luck with your new little one coming into your world, and how fun and how tiring all at the same time, but you'll rock it. So I just wish you the best of luck.
Yes.
Emily, good luck to you, and thanks for all your service on the board, and good luck with the new baby. Wow.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys, still trying to figure out my audio issues. Once again, not my laptop. I'm so sorry about that. Are there any announcements since there are no additions to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Mark, can you do the employee of the month while I try and fix my stuff?
yeah, I think Jake is gonna do the employee of the month, if I remember correctly. So if Camille can
yes,
pull
and
Jake
I
over.
am getting him pulled over. Apologies, Zoom seems to be freezing up a little bit tonight, so there's a little delay. Bear with me here. He is on his way.
You are in, Jake.
Jake, I'm trying to get Brian Penn over as well. Zoom is just delaying a bit.
Are we unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I stole Brian from his office, so don't worry about it, Camille. He can use my computer.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm here now. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for having us again here. I'm pleased to return this month to present the June 2022 Employee of the Month to bus operator Dick Ackerman. Dick was hired as an operator November of '96, and this is his third nomination for EOM. Along with those nominations, he has 25 years of safe driving as well. I would like to add that in the 15 years that I have worked with Mr. Ackerman, I've always witnessed him strive to provide excellent customer service, and this is just an example of that. So while Dick was waiting at the Walmart Park and Ride in Cottage Grove, a customer was approaching on their bicycle and dropped their bicycle pump. Dick patiently waited for them to go back and retrieve the pump. The rider then stated, "Dick is always in a great mood and operates his bus in a safe and timely manner." When his supervisor, Josh Schmidt, was asked to comment on the nomination, he said, "Dick is a quality employee that has an infectious personality. This award is well suited for Dick, and he has a wonderful understanding of what it takes to be a good bus operator. Great job and congratulations on this well-deserved award." So with that, I hope you all join me in congratulating Dick on a job well done.
Good.
Thank you, Dick, and keep up the great work. Appreciate it.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing, and congratulations, Dick. We appreciate you having you on the LTD team, and glad we got to celebrate you this month. Is this audio better?
Yes.
Lots of head nods. Great. Thanks for sticking with me through the technological challenges. Hopefully we won't face this as we come in person in the future. Camille, do we have anyone wishing to give public testimony this evening?
I think yep, there comes some hands.
Great, perfect. I will turn it over to you, Camille.
Perfect. And I will go ahead and read through the instructions just for anybody new. To indicate that you would like to provide testimony, please use the raise your hand button. For those attending via phone only, press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. When it is your time to speak, your name will be called. For those attending via phone only, the last 3 digits of your phone number will be called. Please state your name, city of residence, and who you are representing for the audio record. Once you have provided testimony, your hand will be lowered. Please do not raise your hand again. Only one opportunity to speak is provided. For those unable or not wanting to speak publicly, testimony may be provided via email at clerk@ltd.org. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per community member. A timer will be displayed on the screen and will beep when the 3 minutes is up. Okay, we are going to start with John Gangle. John, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is John Gangle, bus operator and ATU 757 representative. Live in Eugene, Oregon, and I'm here to represent the bus operators. We've talked a lot about forced cancels, otherwise known as required to work. That's, our operators are definitely feeling a huge impact on forced cancels and what they do to our lives. So I was going to give public testimony on what forced cancels before the pandemic did to me. I got married in August of 2019. I'd used personal vacation days, floating holidays, strung together a period of time for my wedding. And the day I was supposed to pick up my sister and my best friend from the airport was a day where I was coerced into working. I used the word coerced because that was the only day I was going to work that week. I was called and asked to work. I said no. A friendly supervisor had called me from their cell phone and let me know that, hey, They're going to get you when you come in. If you call now, you can still get paid overtime. Otherwise, it's going to be straight time. So I called and accepted. When I was hired on in 2016, people were required to work so much they could work basically be forced to work 3 of their 4 days off in a pay period, giving them 1 day off every 13 days. The old contract language was forced to work. You are forced canceled on your day off. It's become the district has become so dependent on requiring people to work on their days off. They fought in the last contract to change the language to required to work to make it sound more palatable. 3 minutes is not enough time to go into great depth of what this has done to our families and what this has done to us. But I will say that my husband has joined the group and sent you an email. His name is Alan Hall. I do hope that you review that letter, as well as my testimony, as well as the testimony of the other operators. We are not adequately staffed when people are forced to work on their days off, when our families are suffering, when we cannot be good partners and good parents. With that, I will also add, if you talk to any of the supervisors here, I've been one of the first to volunteer to help out in several situations. Not that I'm unavailable or unwilling to work overtime. I just have to be able to put my family first. And that's what we don't have the opportunity to do as bus operators. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up, we have Bill Bradley. Bill, whenever you're ready.
How am I coming in?
Now we've got you. Perfect.
Great. Okay, dear LTD Board of Directors, thanks for being here tonight. My name is Bill Bradley. I'm an ATU Executive Board Officer here at Lane Transit District. I come before you today to discuss the ongoing matter of staffing, especially within our bus operator ranks. After last month's board meeting, where I lamented the lack of urgency in providing the community with increased service, especially in the face of historically high fuel prices, historically high used car prices, and few other reliable and affordable transportation options. Again, I'll reiterate that LTD can be a solution to the current burden that the economic conditions are placing on folks trying to fully participate in this community. I only got my first job in Lane County because LTD provided reliable service. Without that job, I wouldn't have been able to start my career at LTD 13 years ago. I wouldn't be here speaking with you. LTD is important, and what we do for our community is incredibly impactful for students, workers, employers, mothers, fathers, retirees, the list goes on. Running full buses might not be the strategy coming out of COVID, but running frequent and accessible buses should be. We cannot expect to reach our routine pre-COVID outperformance of rides per revenue hour. Even when I was speaking with our lost GM candidate, he was impressed by what we've been able to accomplish in the past. Much more productivity than the agency you currently worked for. But what brings me here today was the phrase appropriate staffing. That was said at the last meeting. 9 people worked more than 12 hours that day on that meeting. 3 people were working on their days off. Appropriate is an eye of the beholder type word. LTD has a habit of requiring their workers to perform on their scheduled day off. This was true pre-pandemic, and it's repeating itself post-pandemic. ATU has made significant efforts to remedy the situation over the years, and it has lessened. But when I sit through medical insurance reviews of our LTD group, I get very concerned. Our LTD workers and their families are showing us in our insurance claims that this work is taxing them to the breaking point. Severe and persistent mental illness ranges from 52 to 96% higher at LTD than in the general population. Substance abuse is 90% higher than the general population. COPD, congestive heart failure, have a prevalence factor over 100% when compared to the general population. Stress is degrading the lives of our members and their families. Work must be done to ensure that they get their rest time to recuperate, feed their souls, and enjoy their families. That can only be done if staffing is increased to an optimal level that guarantees LTD's workers their days off. Thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to working with everyone gathered here tonight to ensure that LTD is a true pillar of the community and employer of choice. And I look forward to continuing our search for our next leader. Thank you for your time this evening. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Bill. Next up, we have Rob Zako. Rob, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, LTD board and staff. I'm Rob Zako, Executive Director of Better Eugene Springfield Transportation, of course. And this afternoon, I'd like to direct my comments to you, Emily. Being on the LTD board is arguably a thankless job, but I want you to know that I and Best in the community appreciate all of your efforts. I recall meeting with you a number of years ago when you were considering applying for the position and asking about what was involved and sort of the pros and cons of serving. I don't remember what I told you back then. I don't know how things turned out. It probably was different than either of us expected. That's how life goes. I'm pretty sure that the governor didn't appoint you because you have an expert knowledge of transit, but I know that you're good with numbers and finances, and I know that you've asked a lot of hard questions and you've looked at budgets and contracts. That's not very sexy work. It's not even fun work, but it's really important. That's the kind of oversight that an agency needs to make sure that somebody is representing public interests. And I know that you've done that diligently. And I just want to say that we're very appreciative of that. We understand you have other challenges in life that you're moving on to, arguably more important than looking over a transit agency. So I just want to wish you well with your work life and your family life, and thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you, Rob. And Caitlin, I am not showing anyone else indicating they would like to speak, so I will hand it back to you.
Thank you, Camille, and thank you everyone for their comments, and big thank you to Rob Zako. That was nice well wishes about Emily, and just been so grateful to work alongside you, so well said. All right, let's go ahead and move on in the agenda. So next we are going to do board member reports, and I believe there was Lane Act, MPC, and probably contract committee, and that we have quite a full consent calendar if anyone from the contract committee cares to maybe share, elaborate on what happened in their last meeting.
Well, the contract committee meeting met yesterday, and so we did forward all of those onto the consent calendar for the board's review and approval. We were really comfortable with the information that we received in the meeting, and I don't think there's anything additional that we should add at this time. I don't think there was anything that wasn't captured in the agenda item summary.
Don, go ahead.
I was wondering about the contract with Shesky Northwest, simply because we're just now starting this COA for RideSource and the comprehensive operational analysis. And we still don't have a new general manager, and this contract would kind of bind us to be buying the same Eldorado vehicles to significant part of the fleet. And I'm wondering whether we should do that now or wait until we have a new general manager who can participate in the COA and make the decision about buying those particular vehicles. So I would prefer that we did not commit ourselves to those until we've had some more discussion with the new general manager.
Many of our vehicles over their useful life as it is, and that was the discussion they had at the contract committee. And Emily, if you can, if you recall that discussion, that we need vehicles, but go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, my comment was just going to be we're piggybacking on a contract with the state of Washington, so there was some favorable pricing and some just logistical, benefits of doing it that way, especially in light of some supply chain issues. So I think it was just more procurement of moving towards that, just so that we have the request in, because we don't know when those vehicles will be delivered. But Don, that's a really good point. That of course we want to wait until we have more information and a GM that can oversee things. But at the same time, we want to make sure we're replacing vehicles and just being aware of maintenance costs when we're not replacing them in a timely manner. But Susan, Michelle, if you want to add anything else about that particular contract, please feel free to jump in. And we always have the option to remove that particular item from the consent calendar if we want to do that portion first or whatever everybody's comfortable with.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Emily, and I realize that this is the situation that we work under, and it's a ongoing revolutionary sort of thing. We have to do these things. We have to replace these vehicles, and we're right at the time of doing this. But by so doing, then we commit ourselves to those vehicles for the indefinite future. And the state of the industry right now is such that many of these, there are new opportunities for providing that service with different vehicles. So I just felt like we should have a stronger discussion about this rather than, doing the reasonable thing, which is just replacing the vehicles that are run out, piggybacking with the other contracts, using the same contractor that we've done forever. Well, not forever, but for as long as I've been involved.
And I would, I would say this, that there's not a lot of other options out there right now. And these are only 7-year vehicles. And so we will turn them over, instead. And many of the ones we're running now are 9 years or more. And so they need to be replaced. So, to delay this would delay the quality of transportation for our customers because we've got some really old vehicles. So, certainly it's at the board pleasure, but I would really encourage you to move this forward.
So, Mark, what is the percentage of the fleet that's being dealt with this contract?
We'll have to bring over either Matt or Cosette because they're the ones that deal with the actual details.
And I think Matt presented on that, so he might be, and actually asked a pretty similar question. So he probably has that fairly front of mind. But Don, I really appreciate it. It's a question of practical and strategic, right? It's sort of we're got to balance the two of those. So I appreciate the questions.
Michelle, did you have something you wanted to add?
That mute button and I are not friends today. I was just going to ask if we should maybe continue with board reports, and then it sounds like we might want to pull this from the consent calendar.
Yeah. Oh, yes, no. Okay. Don, did you want to share anything about MPC or Lane Act?
Well, Lane, we had this is Lane Act, had a presentation on the federal lands program, and ODOT was sharing their information about Oregon 22. I think there's not, there was a whole presentation on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the fundings updates. I can't do that in this report, but it was significant stuff. MPC, well, they had a similar one on the IJAL, well, we learned that, of course, Joe Berney did not get reelected in this last cycle, so we'll have a change in the membership of the Metropolitan Planning Commission or Committee. And let's see, Connect to Oregon. Nothing, there was updates on the drill for the Cascadia subduction thing and the Beltline project overview. But these are all significant discussions. I won't try to bring them into this conference. So I have nothing more there, Caitlin, if you wanted to add something.
Thanks, Dawn. And did anyone else want to contribute to board reports before we move on? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to consent calendar, and then if folks want to pull the contract.
Matt is on. Matt is on.
Oh,
so-
perfect. Okay. Matt, go ahead. Were you listening to the conversation, or would you like questions asked again, Matt?
Yeah, I didn't have the privilege, so feel free to ask additional. I'll note that Dawn asked a specific question. It's about our fleet is about 56 to 60 cutaway vehicles. So the overall total maximum would be just about half of that. Currently, 26 of those vehicles today are beyond their useful life, as Mark noted. In the next few years, add 2 years, we're going to be upwards of 34. So over half of our fleet are beyond their useful life. And Emily, and what we shared a little bit about Monday was the maintenance costs associated with older vehicles continue to increase. With supply chain issues, as you're looking at it and you're continuing every single day to see what those cost inflations are, and the duration and the time to get vehicles and parts exceed it. So I would encourage us to move forward. As we noted, we can reduce the quantity. This says upwards of 30. We can reduce the quantity if that's the choice to allow for the COA. But I would say, and I'm not an expert nor a planner, nor claim to be one, but I do believe the COA would still show that we want to deliver service and utilizing accessible service. And maybe it's not all going to be what you see behind me, and that's a cutaway just for those who aren't, but there will still be some need for that. And then even in COVID, larger vehicles for transporting people added stuff where people wanted to see spacing. So I just say all of that in light of, I still recommend bringing forward this, but I do allow and appreciate the board to have discussions around what it is. And it's tough, right? When do you make decisions on some of those things? We do have these things looming, but I think all of us know that the COA is a process where we want the community to be engaged in, and it's not going to be anything like immediate. And so to pause on both moving forward in a direction of purchasing vehicles, I would say wouldn't be the best decision right now, but we can have that. And as Mark said, it's at the discretion of what you guys want to do, and we're here to support you.
And the problem right now is the lead time for delivery of vehicles. They're over a year out. So the longer we wait, the harder they are going to get to. And so, with the supply chain issues and things, we're better off ordering so we can at least plan on having some newer vehicles to be put into use.
So we're still looking at, okay, half the fleet will need to be replaced 3 years from now. But it sounds like that's what we're up to the end here. So then we could make a decision in 3 years, or whatever board or managers are here at the time would have the opportunity to adjust their fleet, just their profile at that time. I appreciate the opportunity just to talk about this and bring it up, but I'm not going to be the one doing anything about it. So thank you for that.
Michelle, you can go ahead.
I was just looking back through my notes, and we had several contracts we looked at, but Matt, is this one that was attached to grants as well?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about that? That might be helpful.
Yeah, so, through the grant process, the SIF one specifically, we reached out to our partners and identified this. One thing I didn't know, and I appreciate, Michelle, you bringing up, not only with grants, but also in our community investment plan, our CIP plan, we have a schedule of replacement. So that's one of the stages that we're looking at and planning towards. And as we present that and get approval, we're actually actively seeking grants, whether that's formula grants that is just attributed to LTD, and we get to decide, or the community gets to decide with the board's direction how we spend that, but also discretionary / competitive grants. And some of these funds are competitive related grants where we're awarded. So yes, funding grant opportunities are attached to it. If we decided not to move forward with this path, we would just need to communicate outward to let people know how we're changing course. So did that answer you, Michelle? Thank you.
What other questions do you folks have for Matt? Can I get a overall sense if folks are still wanting to have an additional discussion, pull it from consent calendar, or feel comfortable moving forward? Can you just,
I'm comfortable just approving the consent calendar as is.
all right, so any other discussion on any other pieces in the consent calendar before we go for a motion? All right, I will entertain a motion.
Happy to do that. I move adoption of LTD resolution number 2022-06-15-028. It is hereby resolved that the consent calendar for June 15th, 2022 is approved as presented.
No, second.
So I'll give it to Emily since it's her last meeting, okay? So Gino made the motion, Emily provided the second. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Let's start with Don Norden.
Aye.
Thanks, Don. Pete Knox.
Aye.
Thanks, Pete. Emily Secord. And then we got it, Emily. Michelle Weber.
Yes.
Okay. Susan Cox.
Yes.
Great. And Gino Grimaldi.
Yes.
And I also vote aye. So that passes unanimously. So thank you, everyone, for that. We're going to go ahead and move on to our first agenda item. We are 2 minutes behind, so I feel like we're doing pretty good there. So I want to welcome for TransPro, we have Mark Ash and Aaron Bingaman. So we're happy to have you. And Mark and Aaron, I am going to turn it over to you.
Greetings. I am in an airport and want to make sure everybody can hear me. Can I get a thumbs up? All right.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be with you all. Thank you for opportunity to follow up with you on this. I'm going to share my screen here, or at least I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Appreciate everybody continuing their patience, collaboration on this process. I think that one of the things we know is that it takes work and it takes time to get us to the right person for us. Hoped to cover briefly with you just a status update on the executive search. Just hit on things, particularly for our public that might be watching this, just a recap of process that the board and the organization has gone through to be able to get here. Talk a little bit about the interview process, talk about what we're doing, and maybe look for anything we might want to do differently going forward in the process. So Mark is here as well, and I may call on him just through his collaboration with you all to facilitate our finalists. So we've obviously kind of restarted an aspect of the process, not the whole process. I think we have really great clarity on the agency's priorities, the core competencies, what success looks like for our preferred candidate. Going back to our recruitment strategy and spending some time screening candidates. So going back to these two phases of the process at this point. Just some things to continue to share with our public and stakeholders that we did go through a really rigorous process to identify our job description and key attributes of success, making sure that we're looking for an engaging collaborator, somebody who's authentically committed to stakeholder and community engagement, as well as Eugene and Springfield and the Lane County communities. Obviously looking for somebody that's a strong communicator, listener, effective change management, and then really community oriented in terms of their approach and passion. And I think we found that in our finalists, and I think we'll find that again in our next batch of finalists. So I have no fear, but that's what we heard from our community in our many rounds of public engagement, and we'll continue to look for in candidates. We use those things to influence the job description. These are some of the key components of that job description, which I'll tell you we've already re-advertised and repositioned that in the marketplace, and we'll just highlight a couple of little things that we've already started to do. And making sure that we're looking for those people with really incredible communication skills, real passion for public involvement, a collaborator, somebody that really embraces community diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that preference for somebody with a strong transit background. I think that did come through for us through the course of the process. Overall, I think we've learned that the compensation range is the right range. I think the feedback we received from the candidates is that it was spot on. They were interested in our performance compensation approach, and that there was willingness to explore that. So don't think we need to revisit compensation. And I think ultimately we learned that sometimes these decisions are really a personal decision, and that our preferred candidate had a really solid reason for their decision. They deliberated for many, many days. And I know Mark, without sharing too much, I guess, about those personal details, but anything to highlight about, we got really positive feedback from our preferred candidate, but just ultimately wasn't the right time for them at this time, right?
Yeah, I mean, the candidate, I think that the community and the board coalesced around, a number of conversations over evenings and weekends. I think significant effort, a lot of factors to consider with family and spouses and the like. But I think to the point that's being made here, all of the inputs were right. And, at the end of the day, it became a very personal conversation. So I think from our perspective, we don't see much that needs to be adjusted as we think about going back to the marketplace. But I know Aaron's about to turn the question to the board. Is there anything we want to begin to think about adjusting as we go forward? But everything we're hearing from the marketplace and heard from your chosen candidate is we got all of this right. It just became very personal.
Thanks, Mark. So let's go through that real quick, and did want to invite, Madam President, if you're open to it, just a little bit of discussion as you went through the finalist interview process. Is there anything we might want to do differently or think about differently going forward? And we invite the board's feedback to that, and something we can collaborate with you all going forward for the next round as we start to screen to finalists.
I would absolutely invite that discussion.
But you only get 5 seconds, and then I'm moving on to the next slide.
Susan, go ahead.
I would be interested to know, are you going to the same places to recruit? I think I remember saying that, or hearing that a large percentage of the candidates saw this on LinkedIn. Are there going to be any efforts to go sort of more broadly? And are the previous candidates being invited to apply again?
Great question. So the answer is yes, and we will go back to the places that we've been to. One of the other things that with the unfortunate passing of Mike, you have Mark and I are much more hands-on and client-facing and community-facing, I guess, on this one. So even the outreach that we've already started to do to curate ideal candidates may not have been people that were touched by Mike. I think one of the other things that we've come to understand, and if you spend a few years in this industry, is people are always paying attention to what is open and what the next opening might be, whether they're a rising star or somebody who's currently in a general manager position. So since the time of our posting, there have been some major movements throughout the rest of the industry, which always creates a space and place for people to start to think about what their future might be. So I know Mark and I have already started tapping on a few doors that we know we didn't touch the first time around when under Mike's leadership. Yes, we are going to repost in the LinkedIn community. We're going to double down on the APTA community as well, the American Public Transportation Association community, and some of those CEOs there, and also reaching out through Transpro's advisory board. We're very fortunate to have an advisory board that includes 3 former general managers, Kimberly Slaughter, Keith Parker, formerly of MARTA, Phil Washington, formerly of Denver and Los Angeles. And so just amplifying the reach in a different way with a different set of partners through that cultivated research. So we want to move quickly because obviously we sense the urgency and the opportunity on your behalf, but we want to hire slow too. We want to make sure we get the right person that's the right fit for us. And I believe we're going to find them. And frankly, all these things happen for a reason. So I believe that next right fit's out there. Mark, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think spot on. We intend to do what we did before. It led to a good destination from the agency's perspective. So we intend to replicate that and do more, and already are.
I guess one of the things that we concluded was didn't necessarily have to be an individual with transit experience. So what places are you going to look at non-transportation individuals? I mean, chambers of commerce, I don't know, different places where if you're not in the transportation community, you might not see it. Is there a broader reach intended this time?
I just talked to a county administrator from the East Coast this morning who would not have seen this, in a traditional setting, but through our network, we think could potentially be a good match. And so it's exactly those kinds of personal conversations that you're suggesting. Aaron, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I was going to say that the other place that we are doing some digging around that I don't think we looked very hard in the first time around would be in the utility space as well. There are a lot of folks operating in that utility space that have that interaction with municipalities, have really solid understanding of what it takes. There's an infrastructure mindset that goes along with that. There's a regulatory mindset that goes along with that. So we've had some success in the past going down that industry as well. So that's another one of the places we're going to look. Anything we want to change, I guess, make sure we do differently through the course of the finalist interview process. And if there are none, there's no reason to change it. We can just move on to a little bit about what we're doing in the recruitment strategy.
Will there be an opportunity to ask questions or give feedback after this, like via email, just in case there's other thoughts that come up after the fact?
Absolutely. Fire away. All right. If it's all right with you, we'll go ahead and move forward. So we've already reposted a refreshed ad, revamped the job ad. We are going back out initially to the traditional transit marketplace as well as via our LinkedIn, dialing up a different pathway of a curated search through our team's network. We're going to look at some potential national associations for those city, county, local administrator type folks that Mark was talking about, as well as really more through our curated search process, looking in those utility spaces, and also aviation. That's still transportation, but aviation folks are really, really strong and translate well to public transportation. We'll have Chanel and Brianna continue to support on the screening and look to source another batch of candidates that you would narrow down to finalists. Probably on the back end of that 4 weeks. I'd say it's going to be the end of mid to the back half of July that we have a batch for you all to review and turn to finalists.
I have a
and
question.
That is, yes, ma'am.
What about like city managers? Seems like that would be a population that would be potentially a good place to recruit.
I think we totally agree. I was sharing the example of the county administrator, but we to your point, we certainly think that county administrators, city managers, et cetera, are a marketplace ripe for conversation.
Well, while we have Mark and Aaron here, what other questions or discussion do board members have?
I would just add, Madam Chair, that we got to a very good destination with the process that we followed, and we are confident in replicating that process. We can write a similar nation, hopefully with a yes this time.
Well, I think we appreciate your optimism and love the strategy, and I think we can all agree in this group that, yes, Abe, hi. I think we can all agree that we really appreciated the candidates that you brought, and we all strongly agreed on one candidate, and we're excited to see who comes the next round. So Susan, go ahead.
Just circling back, it's nice to be able to have the opportunity for us to give feedback and ideas. Are we going to also maybe do a review or a survey or something with regard to the community involvement and employee involvement to see if they also maybe have some suggestions or the things that they want to make sure stays as is?
I definitely think there's value in that. I don't want to speak on behalf of Mark and Pat, but is that something that you all would want to reach out to some of those partners and stakeholders for?
Yeah, I mean, we reached out to them recently, telling them about the outcome, and we've got all their emails. We can reach out to them and seek any input or suggestions they might have, for sure.
Great. All right. Anything else before we move on to our next agenda item? Well, Mark and Aaron, it's always a pleasure. We just want to just express our gratitude for all the work that's been done so far. We know things are shifting a little bit with the absence. And so we are just excited to see the next step, see what happens next. And just want to thank you again for being part of the team, helping LTD find the best possible next general manager. So thank you for all your hard work.
Pleasure. Look forward to being successful.
Appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy whatever time zone you guys are in. Always a pleasure. All right. Thank you, everyone. Christina, nice to see you. We're going to be moving on to the CIP and hoping to adopt the community investment policy. So, Christina, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Emily, for your service on our board. And my best wishes go out to you and your family. As you may have seen, I am trying something new with the community investment agenda line item. I recorded my presentation on the community investment policy and included it in the agenda item summary to allow the board and the public time to listen to it in advance. This could save valuable board time. So before I open it up for questions, I just wanted to check that everyone has had a chance to listen to the presentation. And if they have not, I'm happy to play it now and then take questions.
Thoughts?
I was just going to say, I love the format. Thanks, Christina.
Dawn, go ahead.
I saw a bunch of stuff on the page, but I didn't listen to it. I didn't realize there was a audio presentation. So I can do that separately. It's not imperative that we use our time here.
Anyone else? Okay, does that give you your answer, Christina? You feel comfortable moving forward?
That's up to you, the board. Yes, I am comfortable moving forward and taking questions, and then ask for the board to adopt this new policy if they're comfortable with it after this.
I don't see any opposition, so. Oh, Susan?
Sorry, I just, I think for me, looking at something privately without the context of other people giving input and asking questions. I guess I find that helpful. So I guess if it saves a lot of time, but I think there's something about the group watching it together or hearing the report together prompts different questions. And so I guess I feel like we might be losing something to do this.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to have it and play it right now if that's helpful. Okay, let's see here. Hello, I'm Christina Hsu, the Director of Finance. At the June 15 board meeting, I will be bringing for your adoption the newly created Community Investment Policy. I hope you enjoyed this new presentation format that allows you and the public time to review the presentation at your leisure in advance of the board meeting. At the board meeting, I will be available to answer questions. As always, in all that we do, at the forefront of our minds are our mission, vision, and values. The Community Investment Policy requires that we strategically plan for our near and long-term investments and associated funding to ensure that we are able to contribute to meet our mission of connecting our community in a consistent, reliable, and safe way. The district has not historically had a formal community investment policy. However, it has annually created and updated a plan for its community investments. This is therefore a new policy that formalizes the process and guidelines currently being used for community investment planning, prioritizing, and funding. This policy requires routine review to ensure that it continually aligns with updated strategic and other priorities. This new policy aligns with all 5 strategic areas of focus. But of the 5 areas of focus, it is most closely aligned with community value. Our value to the community is through the services that we offer. Providing those services in a way that anticipates future needs, trends, and changes in the region is critical to providing strong community value. The Community Investment Policy therefore focuses on both future needs and trends and maintenance of existing vehicles and infrastructure. Together, this combination ensures that the district is providing consistent, reliable, and high-value services to our community in a fiscally responsible way. In the next few slides, I will cover the Community Investment Policy Framework. The first 3 elements that I cover are foundational. In other words, they determine whether a project is accepted, as well as what the project's timing and prioritization will be. The first foundational element is the Strategic Business Plan. The Strategic Business Plan identifies the district's mission, vision, and values. The district only invests in projects that closely align with our mission, vision, and values. As an example, financial health is a strategic area of focus. In relation to the CIP, this means that projects are evaluated with a lens of both short-term and long-term affordability and sustainability. Similarly, our strategic business plan value of equity means that consideration is given to transportation investments on things such as poverty, people with disabilities, and other vulnerable populations. The second foundational element is our guiding principles. Our guiding principles serve to set the criterion used to vet all projects. There are 5 guiding principles. They are, number 1, to deliver safe, equitable, and dependable transportation services and facilities in an affordable, efficient, and cost-conscious manner. Number 2, to invest in a transparent, financially sustainable manner that is able to withstand annual revenue fluctuations. Number 3, to adjust to changes in community service needs and strategic business plan priorities. Number 4, to comply with all local, state, and federal regulatory requirements. And number 5, to be a part of the climate change solution while building community resiliency. The last foundational element is the goal of having 70% or more of our community investments projects covered by grants.
This element ensures that we are maximizing the use of the community's dollars and stretching those dollars through greater leverage of non-general fund dollars for projects. In addition to the foundation, the CIP framework is also strengthened by a robust 3-step process designed to ensure that only quality projects that align with the foundational elements just covered are included in the CIP. Aligning projects with this foundation ensures that we are able to continue to meet our vision in creating a more connected, sustainable, and equitable community. The CIP process begins with project proposals that are sourced from thoughtful internal planning and policies, collaboration with our community partners, and direction from our board. All proposals have detailed descriptions, including initial investment and total life cycle costing, to ensure vetting against the foundational elements just covered. The second step in the 3-step process is the internal vetting process. This is done by the leadership team comprised of all directors and the general manager. This vetting process considers the foundational elements and the people and dollar resources available to execute. During this process, projects are prioritized and tiered. Tier 1 projects are ones that are either already in process or have full funding secured. Tier 2 are projects where funding has been identified, but we are still in the process of securing the funding. And Tier 3 projects are usually projects anticipating future needs that must be proactively planned for, but where funding has not yet been identified. The last step in the process is adoption. The district goes through an extensive, approximately 8-month process prior to a CIP being adopted. The process starts in the fall with a budget committee meeting. This is an opportunity for members of the public and the board to ask questions and have an in-depth discussion about our preliminary CIP. The board also holds a public hearing on this preliminary CIP in the fall. In the winter, the preliminary CIP is updated to align with our budget envelope. New projects may be added and timing and funding is updated. A bridge between the preliminary CIP and the proposed CIP is provided to the public along with the proposed budget. A second budget committee meeting and public hearing is held on the bridged CIP. Finally, in the spring, the draft CIP along with the budget and long-range financial plan are adopted as presented or as amended. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about our community investment policy that I will be requesting for your adoption on at the June board meeting. Thank you so very much for your time and attention. Have a great day.
Thank you, Christina, and also obviously thank you for the time that you took to record that. Do board members have questions for Christina? Okay, now is the time to have questions. If you don't, we are looking for adoption.
I was just going to ask, would it be helpful to just think about this in the context of all of the other pieces like budget and long-range planning? Maybe Christina, you could spend a couple minutes on how we use this in conjunction with all of those other pieces, just to elaborate a little bit more than what you had on the video.
Sure. So the CIP is one component of the entire budget. The CIP is a plan, just like the long-range financial plan is a plan. Both of those are items that we use to determine how we do the budget. So we look at what those items are that are in our plan. We look at what we can afford based on the budget envelope. And then we present to you a budget that incorporates the items that are in the CIP that we can afford it within our budget envelope, the operational pieces, and then we ask for your adoption of the combination of the CIP, the long-range financial plan, and the budget. And they, at the time that we ask for your adoption, they all align. Is that what you were looking for, Emily? Okay, great. I guess the other thing I could say is it's related to the approvals that you make as well. So once you have the the budget, you're going through and also approving through the contract committee different contracts. So that's another touch point that the board has with regards to things that are even budgeted already. So you have multiple touch points along the way.
Who else has questions? If there's no questions, we can entertain a motion for adoption.
I move.
Got it, Caitlin.
Somebody else got it?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks. I move adoption of LTD resolution number 2022-06-15-034. It is hereby resolved that the LTD Board of Directors adopts the community investment policy as presented.
A second.
Great. We'll do a roll call vote. Don Norden.
Here. Aye.
Gino Grimaldi.
Yes.
Thank you. Susan Cox.
Yes.
Thank you. Michelle Weber.
Yes.
Thanks, Michelle. Pete.
Yes.
Thanks, Pete. Emily. Thanks, Emily. And I also vote aye. So that's passes unanimously. Christina, thank you so much for everything. We greatly appreciate your work. We appreciate your video and just thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, board. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next agenda item. So next up, we have the overview for the World Athletics Championships, the Oregon 22. And Cosette is joining us, and Cosette will be on in just a moment. Hey, Cosette, nice to see you. We haven't gotten to see you in a little while, so it's so good to see your face, and welcome. And floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. So good evening to our board members. I would just first like to pile on to the kudos and good wishes for Emily. I'm going to miss you, Emily, but I hope that you come back and visit. So I look forward to seeing you in the future. So as you all are no doubt aware, just a month from today, exactly a month from today, Eugene, Oregon, and the newly reimagined Hayward Field will take center stage of the global sports community hosting the World Athletic Championships. This is scheduled for July 15th through July 24th. And this will be the first time, hopefully not the last time, but the first time that this event will be held in the United States. So a lot of planning goes into putting an event like this in place. In the area of transportation, LTD has been working with the event organizers, local and state organizations on transportation needs, while we've also been looking to continue to serve the daily needs of our own community. So I'm here tonight to provide an update on LTD's involvement in the event. So to start with, we'll start with fares. So LTD will be offering free fares to the credentialed workers, the athletes, and the ticket holders who can just use their credentials to ride the bus. LTD has the ability to measure the changes in ridership during this time to seek reimbursement at some point in the future for the fares. In the area of service, LTD will be extending our service system-wide on Sundays by 1 hour to ensure that we get folks back to the hotels or back to their park and rides. And on MX in the weekends, LTD will be increasing our frequency from 15 minutes to service about every 7 to 10 minutes. In the evenings, we'll be increasing our MX frequency from 15 and 30-minute frequency to 10 and 15-minute frequency, respectively. And what we know is that a lot of people are going to be using our MX system to get to and from Hayward Field. It's going to be one of the best ways to get to and from Hayward Field because MX has protected travel time. So while other transportation modes may be getting caught in congestion, our MX service will be operating smoothly. So we're also planning to have some capacity available to address overloads as needed in other parts of our system. So in the area of customer service, so we want to support visitors who are coming to our system and wanting to use our buses to get around, not just to go to the event, but also to get to experience all that our area has to offer. So we'll be expanding our customer service hours by 1 hour on weekday evenings. And then we'll be opening our customer service center on weekends from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So Monday through Friday and the weekends, we'll be having staff available to help provide information and to provide direction from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'll also be increasing our presence at key stations. So stations like the Eugene Station, Springfield Station, and Agate Street, through staffing shifts with admin folks, and also utilizing contracted services such as our transit host program. And this will give us an opportunity to actually be out on the platforms and to have an opportunity to interact and be a resource for folks who are visiting and just need a little bit of extra help to get where they need to go. On the topic of airport shuttles, I just want to be really clear, LTD is not contracting, nor are we operating airport shuttles. However, LTD does have unique experience to lend to the operations. In that, LTD is working with LCOG, who has just closed an RFP to procure service from the airport to area hotels. So LTD will be working with the contracted provider and LCOG as needed to provide support and coordination. And then lastly, I'm sure that you all know about the Riverfront Festival. So the City of Eugene is hosting activities and a celebration at the new downtown Riverfront Park. LTD is creating an IGA with the City of Eugene to utilize our 4 MGO electric vehicles. These are vehicles that were purchased using local funds to serve our mobility on demand service in downtown Eugene that was put on hold when COVID occurred. And city staff will be operating those vehicles to transport people from a park and ride in downtown Eugene to the event venue. So that is a wrap on the update. Are there any questions?
Cosette, thanks for letting us know about the airport shuttles. I think that was always an interesting topic being brought up in the community. So thanks for clarifying that.
Sure, and actually, I do just want to say there was a, sorry, I'm hearing echo. There was an article in the Oregonian saying that LTD would be providing shuttles. So I just want to be really clear, LTD is not providing or operating or contracting airport shuttles. Thanks.
Cosette, go ahead and call on folks with their hand up since I'm the reason for the echo.
Thank you so much. So Gino.
This is all great and something we need to be doing. I'm just curious as to the cost, the net cost to do this.
So I appreciate asking the question. So we are tracking our costs, and we have had some indication and some expectation that we could be reimbursed for these costs. Truly, I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say it's there's no cost, but I think that we've done a good job at creating service and creating support that really does limit the cost to LTD. Specifically with the free fares, again, we'll be measuring our ridership between the event days and ridership on regular non-event days, and we'll be looking to the state for some potential reimbursement for that.
Do you have a rough number of what the net cost might be? I mean, the additional costs would increase frequencies and other things that are happening with personnel.
So I do not, but LTD is. So I just don't have that at my fingertips, Gino. I'm so sorry. That is something I could get for you, Gino.
Just curious.
Yes, sure. All right, Don.
Oh, Cosette, I'm so glad to hear your report. It's so exciting to think that what we can do as a demonstration in our community, what we can do for this. It's a wonderful project, and I'm happy to be involved. I do want to press a little bit. I'm wondering if there's any consideration of the rural routes, the 90s, going to Junction City and Lowell and Cottage Grove, Crestwell, all of these communities are getting, there's Airbnbs being set, people are taking in these visitors. And yet the only way to get back and forth is by this automobile, unless you can be well coordinated with the existing service. And I'm wondering if there has been any planning involved in any of that.
So thanks, Don. Thanks for the question. We are in contact, for instance, with the airport. We are in contact with the event organizer. We're constantly looking at things like rental cars, where people are staying. We're working with Traveling County, looking at where people are staying. What we're learning is, unfortunately, the bulk of folks will be using cars. So a lot of folks will be getting rental cars. The airport is beefing up their number of rental cars, expecting most people to be using rental cars. Again, having the service out at the airport gives people a reason not to rent a car, at least if they're coming into our airport and staying in our community, because we do have bus service. I also know I had a bit of a conversation with our operations director earlier, and although we're not actively putting service out, additional service out to the communities around the metropolitan area, we do have service available in case of overloads. But truly, Don, you are asking all the right questions and questions that we've been asking. We have never done an operation like this. Again, we're also working with event coordinators who they have shuttles from Valley River Center. They have shuttles from other locations, as well as shuttles that are going up and down I-5, so north and south on I-5. So there's a lot of transportation available. If you go out to Traveling County's website, you can see all the information that's available from the different communities. It's going to be fun. It's going to be wild. Susan.
Well, I'm sort of horrified to imagine that it's only a month away. It seems like it's careening closely here. I do think this is exciting, and it's very complicated, it's complex, and I think it's an opportunity for LTD to really shine. And it's also an opportunity to really make sure that things are in place. So I have a couple of questions. So when you say that they'll be reimbursed for free, who is it that does the reimbursing? Is that the state? Is that, who does that for the free fares?
So LTD committed to providing free fares for the service. And we did that with the understanding that we will have an opportunity to get reimbursed from the state. And Matt Garrett, representing the governor's office, has been involved in these conversations. And so that's, again, that's who we'll be looking to for reimbursement.
So is there a memorandum of agreement about that, or that's still underway, just talking about it?
Mark, do you want to address this?
Yeah, so all of this has come down in the last 2 months. So, there's literally no guarantees that, anything's going to be reimbursed, really. But the state is footing the bill for the airport service with LCOG managing their contract. We're under discussions about, reimbursing for additional service and fares. But, it may have to be a legislative matter, to tell you the truth. So, but we're partnering with all the cities too, because the county has also put a lot of money into providing everything that they can to make this a really good event. And it's really important to the governor that it's a good event. And so, people are putting their best effort forward, expecting that, in the end, they'll figure out the reimbursement piece. So.
Well, so another question about that with free fares for people involved with the events. Is there any opportunity for free fares for just our regular transit customers? Is there going to be some tension with regard to that? That's one question. And then secondly, we've been hearing about the struggle to be able to adequately resource staff. With this really expanded service, how is that going to be? What's the reality with that?
I think the reality is that we have cut back on opportunities for time off for vacations and different things during that time. So we have more staffing in place because we're not offering as many vacations those weeks. And so we think we can handle the additional need with that. And some of it's included in our bid. So, you know, it's put into the structure of the service plan. So.
Okay. So there's already been an analysis of how many additional employee hours it's going to take, and that's all been adjusted. Okay. Right. And then about the free fares for participants compared to, is this an opportunity to provide free fares for general ridership?
Well, we already, a large part of our service is already free. All the students ride for free. They've got free transit passes. We've got a low income, that also, have opportunities to ride free. So during this time, what we didn't want to do is kind of have a free for all for service, right? And so the credentialed folks we're allowing to ride for free, and others will have their normal fare structure in place.
And so it's the drivers, it'll be the drivers that have to be responsible for the differences between the free fares and regular ridership.
Well, yeah, but it's no different than what they do every day. I mean, if somebody has a ticket, they get on, and if somebody has a fare, they get on. So, it's no different than, how they collect fares or manage fares every day.
But this will be a different population, right? I mean, that's sort of emerging in. I just think that those are questions that be helpful to know.
MX, there's no fare collection anyway. Mm-hmm. Right. So, people just get on MX with the expectation that they bought a fare instrument. And so, it doesn't make sense to, charge a fare for anybody on that right now anyway. So, and that'll be the primary usage will be on MX, because they'll go from, they can go from clear to the west side out to, Springfield with all the hotels, and it goes right past the venue. So that'll have the most impact.
Okay. And Mark, you talked about, you mentioned that it might require a legislative fix or some other reimbursement. Is there anything that we can do as board members to sort of help that process, or?
Maybe basically once it's all done, we're all tracking costs, the cities, counties, we're all working together, and we'll probably have a package of asks to the state to say, okay, here's what we've put out to, pull this off. And, and we'll work together with Springfield and the county and the city and put a package together for reimbursement.
Thanks.
Pete, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I agree. This is a great opportunity. And Susan asked a lot of the questions already. And so I just have one more to kind of ask how are we getting our word out that this is available and that we're doing this? I mean, you mentioned Travel Lane County. I don't know how many people go to that website, and are we partnering with the organization so that people get the word out that they can use transit, because it's a great opportunity to get people on our buses and also off the road too. So.
So I really appreciate that, Pete. There's the organizing committee is using a program called Know Before You Go. So it's really geared toward the folks who have purchased tickets. They've been sending information out to those folks via email, and all of the transportation is being directed to Travel Lane County's website. So if you push that you want to get information about transportation for for the local community and even the state community, it's all going to Travelline County. So we're making sure that we're well represented on Travelline County, and we're partnering with them to make sure that our regular service is highlighted, as well as any of the special services that help people have a good experience and a good visit in our community. And again, encourages people to use public transportation and other modes other than driving the car.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, did you have another question?
And I just want to point out, Pat Walsh has his hand raised. If I'm wondering if he wants to be moved over. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to draw attention to that.
Don, you're muted.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to comment that I was just checking an old LTD sign at the bench, kind of battered and, graffiti on it and stuff, and just dialed up the number, 686-555, and immediately the phone was answered. And I thought it was, didn't have to wait for a dial tone or anything. It just sort of old school if you don't have your cell phone with you.
Any more questions?
Because I just had a couple for you. Kalina had shared in a contract committee meeting a while back that we were doing a lot of work with a pilot program with some partners about having an online system of different ways to connect to the transit. And I wondered if that was on track, or if that's something Kalina maybe wants to give an update on. I didn't see that in the agenda packet, but I might have missed it.
So I believe you might be talking about the mobile wallet partnership. And that's a multimodal trip planning. Is that it? So unfortunately, that is not going to happen in time for the games. And I'm just going to say we knew that it was a stretch, a big stretch to make it happen by the time the games are happening. But again, what we've done is we worked with Travelline County. There are other apps that do something similar to that app in terms of trip planning. They don't take it the next step, which is the mobile wallet, which is what we're going to be taking it to that next step. But there's really good apps available for folks to do pretty much everything that the trip planning portion of that mobility wallet does. So tried and true, and they're right there on the Travelline County website.
Okay, thank you for that. I was curious because I knew it was a little bit of a optimistic viewpoint of timeline. So thanks for that. I also wanted to echo Susan's comments about the concerns regarding extended hours and just our staffing, and just making sure that we're thinking about those things and being proactive and just thoughtful about people's schedules and families. And then I also wanted to ask, or maybe put it out there in the universe, if our request for any kind of reimbursement does not get approved for some reason, do we have something in the budget for this? Do we need to have a discussion about funding some of this? Just wanted to make sure we're being, again, proactive on that front as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we end up having to eat a certain amount of it, which we probably will not get fully reimbursed, but we will come back to the supplemental budget if we have to.
Yeah, I guess my concern is I don't really love to approve money after the fact. So if it's not in our budget or we haven't considered it now, I think I'd rather be having the conversation now than in arrears. So just wanted to point out fiscal responsibility practices there, if possible.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. And we can put together the expected expense, additional expense, and we'll get that to you guys.
Just some ballparks would be helpful, just so we're not just totally in the dark on this. It's a little concerning.
Well,
absolutely. And I think Tom's over. Maybe he can.
So planning just texted me that. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah,
I didn't hear the question, so I was being brought over.
Yeah, I think they're one about the cost of the additional service that we're looking at providing for fixed route MX.
Well, we're extending the span. Brett could probably tell us that he's going to be on. I'm wondering if Brett's going to come on the next item, not the item that we have next on the agenda, but when we're talking about service, that would be a question.
Brett just texted me and said that the additional service will be a ballpark of $60,000.
$60,000, okay. Oh, that's what that text was. I got that text.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, you know, while it's a significant amount, it's not going to, you know, break us. So.
And then Pete, did you have another question?
Yeah, just some concerns about, you know, if we really do get some full buses, it's going to put some stress on our ability to move people with disabilities around. You know, the MX, and I can tell you that talking to people who are in wheelchairs all the time, they are oftentimes left behind because of the wheelchair bays are full and stuff like that. Is there any consideration being thought to how to deal with that? Is it just, you know, just even though those ADA bays are supposed to be reserved from, if you get a really full bus, it's going to be really hard to get people on there. I've seen what wheelchair it's like playing the worst game of Tetris ever.
That's a really great question, Pete, and we actually have had that discussion internally. So we do have a policy around if someone is left behind, and we do have our ride source service and vehicles available to help provide that service. So I feel like we have a good process in place to ensure that no one is having to wait too long because they're displaced by a mobility device.
Right. But is there a way? To deal with that in a more immediate basis? Because I mean, you could have a pretty high wait time. You know, with that, for example, if you have somebody who might see 2 or 3 AMXs go by, you're talking, well, if you've had it in reversal, you're talking at least 15 minutes, maybe 20 or more. So, you know, just wanted to make sure that was discussed and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate that, Pete. And just by having more frequency on our MX, that gives us more capacity to provide that service, as well as having ride source available and ready to help support that. I think that's as best as we can do. I think that's as good as we can do.
All right.
Susan?
Sorry for all the questions. I think this is really exciting. And as I said, I think it's a real opportunity for LTD to shine in the community. So I appreciate the budget, the 60,000 estimation. If it's possible to get more of specificity about where that all comes from, I think that would be really helpful. And then as exciting as this is, as wonderful it is, I think we have to really be conscious of the fact that we don't all these folks will go home, but we have to make sure that we don't alienate the people who live here and who are our loyal transit riders all the time, that they have to feel as important and they don't feel marginalized somehow during all of this. So I just, and then in terms of all of the extra that you're talking about in terms of having staff at the stations and so on, if there's any role that board members can play, with regard to volunteering, I certainly would be happy to do that. I think if there's some way that we can share the burden, that would be good.
Thank Thank you, Susan. I know that as we've been having conversations around the service, we've definitely been keeping our community in mind because they are our community. So we've been advocating for and keeping our community in mind to make sure that their daily life is disrupted and served to the best of our ability and as little as possible. So, and then as far as volunteers go, you're talking to the right girl. So I will definitely be reaching out and providing opportunities if you're interested. Thank you.
We are slightly behind our agenda time. Tom's actually up next, so Tom's already here, but anything else for Cosette?
Susan, thanks for saying that about our riders. I'm a little bit concerned about our local folks who are going to be, sort of bearing the burden of some of this extra volume. And so I think if there's a way we can do, some sort of acknowledgement of that, whether it's free fares on the non-MX routes, just something that we should just be mindful of if we're not feeling like the budget is that terrible. Maybe we just factor in that component as well, just as a food for thought.
Yeah, and we talked about that, and part of it is, we've got a pretty big homeless population that if we give free fares for everyone, they kind of like hanging out on our buses quite a bit. And so we're trying to control that to a certain degree. But we did talk about doing something, after the game's over for our regular riders, just to, thanking them kind of for doing their part to pull this off. So.
Yeah, I think at one point you guys had said that some of the drivers actually preferred having some fares in place. It actually helped to make their lives a little bit easier. So I think there's probably a balancing act there. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Cosette, thank you so much for that. Great to see you and great questions, everyone. Thank you. Tom, you're already here. Like I said, I just want to recognize we are running a few minutes behind schedule, but Tom, floor is yours.
Okay, well, thanks. I'm gonna be hopefully quick here. The intent of this item and the action we're asking from you is to really bring a couple of things together. Back in 2016, the Board of Directors adopted Resolution 2016-012 that stated our district's commitment to reducing deaths and serious injuries from transportation-related crashes. And one of the provisions in that resolution was that we, staff, would come back on an annual basis, a regular basis, to provide an update on what activity had taken place. And I'll say we struggled with that a little bit. As you might know, just talk to Jake for a few minutes. You'll hear that. I mean, safety is just at the core of what we do. We have a good safety record because of that. And so we struggled with how to do that. And at some point in time, this is just how things work. I discovered that we have a public transportation agency safety plan. And that's something, if you know David Lindblom in HR, that's something that he heads up, and he heads up the general efforts at installing a good safety program and protocol here at LTD. So in that, and if you look in your memo on the side up, I laid out the resolution's provisions. I'm not going to go through all of those, but there's several of them. And then I provided you with a quick overview of some of the key performance measures in the public transportation agency safety plan. And what we thought about was this would be a great plan to use to tie to the board safety resolution. And so what we're doing tonight is asking you to approve a resolution that the key change, we keep all the provisions, and again, like I said, the provisions were laid out for you in the memo, but we also attached the previous resolution. We're asking you to modify, actually adopt a new resolution that essentially modifies one of the provisions directing the general manager to continually evaluate passenger safety and access along bus routes. And through a series of performance measures, performance measures provided in the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan relating to maintenance, operation safety, monitor LTD safety by identifying trends and gaps in policies, procedures, training, and monitoring methods. And that really creates a structure that we haven't had before in coming to you to talk about the progress we're making on safety. And that the new resolution does that. And that's what we're asking you to consider tonight. So with that, I'll ask you if you have any questions. Not seeing any questions. Are people ready to move forward? Adoption of the resolution.
Well, I'll move adoption of LTD resolution number 2022-06-15-035. Hereby resolve the LTD Board of Directors approves LTD resolution as read.
Second.
Is Caitlin not here?
It looks like she's dropped off, Dawn.
Okay. I was just waiting for
Dawn,
her.
Caitlin's internet just went down. If you don't mind taking over chairing, that would be great.
Yeah, I was just kind of realizing she didn't seem to be appearing here. So, let's see, I had read an adoption motion, so I guess I'll drop out of that and let somebody else make the resolution and get a second, and then we'll vote on it. Do I have a motion? Anyone?
Well, it looks like Caitlin's back if we want to just stick with our original course and have her take the roll call vote.
Okay, then all she has to do is do roll call.
Yeah.
Sorry everyone. I'm in the hotel with the echo and the bad internet, so thanks for bearing with me. Where were you at? Can you please fill me in?
I had posed the motion 06-15035 and seconded by Michelle? No. Okay, Michelle. And then we were prepared to do a roll call vote.
Thank you.
And so that you would.
Perfect. Thanks, Dawn. Well, let's go ahead and start with you, Dawn.
Aye.
All right. Michelle?
Yes.
Pete?
Aye.
Gino?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Emily?
I'm going to abstain. Sorry, I missed part of that.
That's fine. And then I will also vote aye. So that passes. Thank you. And then Tom, so you are going to be giving us an update on fiscal year 23 service changes?
Yes, along with Brett.
All right, great.
So to start with, while Brett's coming over, just to give you a little context. And first I wanted to say 52 years ago this month, the LTD board, which is then called the Lane County Mass Transit District Board, held its first meeting. As you do in first meetings, they establish the president, chairs of committees, legal, financial things. And, the city manager of the city of Eugene said that they would continue the service that had been operating until LTD. So just the more you know. And tonight we're going to talk about our service plan for this coming fiscal year. And to begin with, just some of how we're thinking about our ridership from a planning standpoint. And we'll go through, actually, if either Cosette, or I'm sorry, Camille, you want to bring up the PowerPoint, or I can bring it up to share?
Yes, absolutely. I have it up. Well, I had it up and it just froze just as I opened it.
I have it up if you want, if you could share.
Perfect.
So folks can see this? Yes? Some nodding of heads, okay. So just to start with, like I said, our ridership has been gradually increasing since September of 21. And you might recall we brought this chart to you several times during the pandemic, and we've continued to use it just to monitor progress. And what I like about this really gives you a good look at how ridership has fared by week since the pandemic started. And so again, we were averaging about 35,000 boardings a day. The average weekday boardings dropped precipitously. And I'll have more to say about that. And just recently in the when school started, basically back in September, we started to see an uptick. And of course, this downturn here, if you could see my cursor, in the December or January timeframe is the holiday period, which is traditionally been there's a downturn in ridership, as you might guess. But then we've seen a steady increase, but I'm going to say it's relatively small, average less than 0.5% of 1% on a weekly basis. And it's expected that this change is going to be affected by impacts of emerging hybrid work arrangements and other fixed route transit in the community. And so some of the questions we're asking are around, with people getting used to working from home, how might transit ridership trends change? In particular, the peaks that we see here, if you look at this chart, the peaks are that we're seeing now are very similar to what we saw in pre-pandemic. And if you recall, those peaks have been there for a while, though much lower in terms of ridership. So some of the same kinds of ridership is happening today, but how might that change over time? And then another question is, how might increases in remote work trends affect the general demographics of transit ridership? You could imagine, and we're hearing this as we talk to some of our counterparts in other transit agencies doing that service planning, is, might there be fewer middle income riders? And does that shift require maybe rethinking about routing and scheduling needs of ridership? And then finally, how might trends in online shopping and food delivery affect transit ridership levels, day of week and time of day types of patterns? And so all those things taken together, we have proposed a modest increase in service for FY23, and go through that. And just to remind you, we've heard this before, but we conduct 3 service changes per year. One for winter, summer, and then one in the fall. The word bid reflects the work that is actually bid on 3 times a year by our operators. And what I want to do is have, well, first of all, show you a couple of things that just kind of give you a sense of the where we're at. And I'm going to have Brett describe the specific changes that we're proposing for the fall. First, this is ADBG data, and if you've heard Mark or Hart, you may have heard Hart give a presentation. This is these lines are from the other agencies that are part of ABBG, and we're required to anonymize all those. So I can't speak to the specific issues of anyone, but the Eugene line is here, and the point is, here's our fixed route ridership, and it's indexed to February, which is a full month before the pandemic happened in March of 2020. And you can see our ridership dropped precipitously, and has, like I said, been increasing. And in particular, you see a pretty obvious jump in ridership in this last school year. And so, but still, we're even with that, we're at the kind of lower end of our ridership here. And part of that might be due to the fact we are, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're the smallest agency involved in the ABBG group. And that could be part of it. The community is just small. The other perspective, or the other way to look at this, not another perspective, but the other way to look at this is just looking at our service relative to what we were operating beforehand. And what you see here is we did a dramatic cut, and we've been adding back service perhaps more aggressively than some of the others. I know, or we know, Spokane is one of the ABBG group agencies, and they were operating about, they continued to operate 100% of their service throughout the pandemic, and have actually increased some of their service recently above what they were operating. But all the same, the combination of those things kind of relates to kind of what you're seeing in terms of ridership there. So wanted to go over the fall service changes, and I'm going to ask Brett to step in.
All right. Well, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. Just want to give you kind of a quick update of some of the things that are scheduled to happen this fall. Just to kind of give you kind of a rough update, in the summertime, we reduce our school trips, which is our 79X, 81, 82, and there's a half trip on Route 36 as well that's reduced during our summer era when college students are not in and things like that. So then in the fall, that service returns, which will be returning again this fall. Route 51 and 52, they're going to have some minor changes, and I'll explain that here in just a minute with some slides that'll hopefully give you a little more context and details as to what that's about. And then we also have another route change, Route 17 and 18, which will also provide some more useful context here in a minute with the slides, but mostly has to do with creating a more useful service for folks that will hopefully be utilizing some of the new developments that are occurring out on Marcola Road. If you've been out that way, you'll see that there's quite a large subdivision, some apartments going in, a school will be going in, a church, quite a bit of development going in over there. So maybe the next slide there, Tom, please. So on this slide, what I want to show you is just a piece of Routes 51. So one of the things, the city in their development of the downtown core to make it more bike and ped friendly, they're actually developing 8th Street to be more focused on bike and ped. And so in that context, we won't be able to actually operate our buses on 8th Street from where we normally turn on Olive onto 8th. That corner and that section all the way up to Washington will no longer be accessible to us. A few years back, we got off of 8th down further to the west as well when we put in the new MX. So slowly we've been kind of coming off of 8th as it is anyway. The plan now is to move our route straight up Olive up to 5th Street. That provides some better connectivity too in some ways. It will speed the bus up slightly. And so it's just a minor adjustment in that particular area. The next slide shows Route 52, which has a similar adjustment. Route 52 also uses 8th Street as it leaves Eugene Station and heads out into the Santa Clara area. So in that context, again, that bus will be routed up to 5th Street to continue its journey. The impacts aren't that high since the blocks are very close to each other, and there are stops that are strategic in that area for folks to be able to still, get to the bus and be able to move through in that particular area. The big change that is kind of exciting is the next one, which is Route 17 and 18. Route 17 and 18 have traditionally operated kind of independently, serving two different little areas in the Springfield area, up by Fred Meyer, up onto Hayden Bridge, and then Q Street for the 17, and then the 18 would traditionally go down G Street, past the hospital on Mohawk, go past Winco Foods and Walmart, circle back around and come back to the station. But neither route was actually interconnected in a way that made for folks to be able to, for example, get down to Walmart and be able to get back effectively. So what we've done instead, and it's a little bit difficult to see on the map, but basically they're kind of in a loop now where they overlap each other on they're on Marcola Road and on Olympic and on Mohawk. And then part of 5th all the way up to Q Street. So that overlap allows folks who happen to be in that new development area, which you'll see in the blue up in the right-hand corner, they will be able to actually get on a bus, go down to the shopping centers, Walmart or Winco, do their shopping. And in the past, they would have had to ride all the way back around to 5th Street, get on the 17, come all the way back up on the 17 to come all the way back around, or go back to Eugene's or back to Springfield Station, get back on the bus and come back the other way. So what this does is it creates a shorter connectivity for them, a much better opportunity. So what we did is we, when we were creating this and coming up with this solution, and this was actually part of back when we were doing our original COA, and the timing seemed right at this point to try to move forward with this, and because of the new development that was taking place. So we put it out to the public, to our ridership mostly, to say, hey, is this look good? And we put it out to our drivers as well to say, hey, did we miss something? Because this looks almost too good to be true in some ways. And actually what's exciting is we got all positive feedback from the public, from the drivers, everybody involved. So they're pretty excited about this. Kind of an additional plus to this route. This summer, we actually were able to add some additional service to both 17 and 18 and in its current state. So come fall, they will actually get to benefit from this new development change. So, and that's basically where we're at right now for fall. There's a little bit of trip adjustments, things like that for the fall, but not a lot of actual service additions for this fall, other than bringing back our school trips that have been discontinued for the summer service. Other than that, any questions?
Any questions for
Don't see any hands up, but any questions for Brett or Tom?
Thank you very much. We'll be back.
Okay, no questions. All right, well, Brett and Tom, thank you both so much, and talking about the service changes. And so with that, I think we will move on. But once again, Tom, pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for staying on for both agenda items. And Brett, we really appreciated the presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so really quickly, is there any discussion or any questions about the written reports? Okay, great. And then the last thing we're gonna do is just touch on the agenda item for the items for action or information at a future meeting before we move into executive session. So is there any additional request for things to be on our next agenda?
Caitlin, I've asked a couple of times for the results from the employee survey, and I just wanted to make sure we're putting that back on the agenda, either for having that sent out electronically and shared at a board meeting, or how that's going to be delivered. So just wanted to continue to bring that to the attention of the board that we haven't seen those yet.
Mark, do you have an update for that?
Yeah, again, we had a third party do it this year. We didn't do it, and we don't have the raw data. And so, they presented it to us. Well, not even to me, actually. I wasn't available. And so I just got the links to the stuff this week. And so I haven't even had time to go through it. So as soon as I get through it and figure out what I can provide the board, I will.
Thank you.
Okay, and any other board members have requests at this time? All right, great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna close out our regular meeting and move into executive session. Just a reminder that that is a separate Zoom link. That should be in your email. I am going to go ahead and, Camille, remind me, I don't adjourn this just yet. We just move into executive session.
Yeah, so the regular session is essentially going to be adjourned once we move into executive session, because once that is complete, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting altogether. So we just need a motion to move into executive session. Once we have that, everybody use the link that I sent you just a little while ago to move over to executive session. And once everybody's moved, I will close this out and start the other webinar.
Okay, anyone have a motion?
I have a question. I don't see the link for that updated, that video conference. Did I miss it?
I did send it out. If any of you don't have it, let me know and I will resend it to you right this very moment.
Thank you, Camille. I don't see mine, so I'd appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay.
I don't have it either.
Perfect. Okay. Resending right now.
All right, Emily, let us know if you got that. We want to make sure. Okay, so everyone sounds like they have the link. We're still looking for a motion.
I'll move us to executive session.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Emily. All right, go ahead and sign off with this link and use the other one.
Do you need a second?
Maybe. Camille, do we need a second to Emily's motion?
Yes, if somebody could make a second, that would be great.
A second.
All right.
We'll give it to Dawn.
It's all or none here.
Okay, all in favor of moving to executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Yeah, aye.
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 Okay, aye. All right. See you over there.